From the title, it's clear what I'm talking about. It was one of the first animated movies I watched when I was about 5 or 6. It's a movie that's left a major impact on me to this day. Wait, no, not this movie. Okay, Prince of Egypt is for another time, but you know what I'm talking about. The funny ogre movie. Animation, as a practice, has greatly evolved over the years, to the point where there are multiple forms where someone's creative vision can take flight. However, there are those projects that take all the intertwining aspects of entertainment and stand out as timeless works that will inspire people long past our lifetime. So grab a bite, take a seat, and enjoy the show, because I'll be going over what I consider to be the best of animation in no particular order. For some light history and context, Shrek had his humble beginnings as a children's book written by William Steig. Rest in peace, Mr. Steig. In a very brief summary, Shrek is literally kicked out of his parents' house to cause his own share of damage to the world. After meeting a witch and hearing his fortune, Shrek learns to be confident and content with himself while on a quest to find and marry a princess uglier than him. I'm not making this up. And while the movie differs from the source material in terms of characters, plot, and morals, it still holds as an impressive work. The biggest difference I can note from a light read of the book is that the movie took away Shrek's flame breath and heat vision. On the technical side, Shrek's development started in November of 1955, when producer John H. Williams brought in the children's book his kids were reading to Katzenberg. From there, Katzenberg bought the film rights and immediately began production on Shrek. After a few years, the usual list of production issues, and some casting problems, the movie hit United States theaters May 18th, 2001. Looking at DreamWorks' filmography at the time, this is after Aardman's World War II chicken film, but before the Old West Matt Damon horse movie. Shrek is about, well, Shrek. He's big, he's disgusting, he's generally unattractive by conventional beauty standards, and he likes being alone. The obvious joke here is that's exactly like your typical woebegone internet user, but the difference is they aren't green, able to throw hands, and aren't charismatic or witty. Our misanthrope of a protagonist doesn't mind the quiet and lonely life. Though that changes when the antagonist, Lord Farquaad, exiles numerous recognizable fairy tale creatures to Shrek's home, leading Shrek to reluctantly take Donkey on his quest to get everyone out of his swamp. And after meeting Lord Farquaad and agreeing to his deal of rescuing Princess Fiona in exchange for relocating the various fairy tale creatures, Shrek and Donkey set off. The rest of Shrek is dedicated to taking standard sanitized fairy tale princess tropes and completely laughing in their faces with no remorse. Such as turning the tournament for the privilege of rescuing the princess into a wrestling match. Learning Princess Fiona is a good fighter and is a lot stronger and more capable than she looks. And Shrek actually has reasons for his nature and personality. I'm stopping here with story details because if I go any further, I'll get into major spoiler territory, and I know the film is almost 23 years old, but that shouldn't mean spoiling it for any of you interested in watching it. What I can say is if you don't mind some generic tropes being made fun of, you'll have a good time. I do have more to say, but I think it's only fair that before moving on, I discuss the title of my video. What makes Shrek a fun, subversive take on the fairy tale genre? Though, before I share my point of view, I want you to recount every formulaic and safe take on the genre you can recall. Go ahead and pause the video for a minute and sift through your memories. Then come back and hear my thoughts. I can wait. Alright, now Now that you've had some time to mull things over, or you're just here to listen to me talk, I present to you my take. What encompasses almost every generic fairy tale story a writer could make. They're clean, sanitized, and have characters who are nearly perfect in looks, mind, or both. While there are more pieces to that answer of a puzzle, it fits with what Shrek does to be satirical. How would you feel if Shrek was a fit, handsome, and extroverted character? How would you react to Princess Fiona being unable to fend for herself, and Shrek falling into the romanticism of chivalrous heroes for her? What would you think of the movie if it didn't subvert the formulaic tropes and conflicts in fairy tale stories? If Shrek had the elements I mentioned here, I'd probably lose interest in watching it. The same could be said for you if you've consumed enough content with similar requirements. The writing of Shrek knows this, and does everything in its power to parody the content it's drawing from. Shrek isn't a perfect or romanticized character. He's a bald, green grump with a dad bod that draws angry mobs with pitchforks and torches. The music is a balance of whimsical melodies and fitting rock and pop songs that elevate the setting and tone. And the comedy is what helps make Shrek a wonderful movie. It's not falling back on the tropes it makes fun of, nor is it attempting to be a poor deconstruction of the medium. It's a balance of knowing what pitfalls to avoid, while also knowing when to make fun of itself. Tying all of these elements together culminates into Shrek being a fun, subversive take on the fairy tale genre. But like I said earlier, I have more to discuss. I don't have much writing experience melding topics together, so here's where I'll talk about the production bits I found interesting in Shrek, and what I meant by casting problems. Firstly, it's the shortest piece of information I saw about the movie, the directors. As it's common to hear in production, many directors join and leave projects regularly. As Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jensen took over, Adamson battled with Katzenberg to have more risque jokes and adding music from Guns N' Roses to the soundtrack. I listened to some of their music while writing the script and thinking about it, adding more indecent adult jokes and some of their music could have had major effects. Speaking contextually, it all depends on how those choices of music and jokes would fit into the world. And unless I learn what they were, I can't make baseless assumptions. Okay, something short I can talk about that isn't speculation is I love the art and world of Shrek. The world has a balance of magic and realism. All the technology and concepts are based on our real-world counterparts, and have been scaled down to function in the context of the movie. As well, the magic in Shrek's world is capable of doing obvious tasks, or just reminding us that people in this world can literally be cursed. It's nothing deep or profound. They're both simple devices to move the plot forward, and they don't overstay their welcome. On the art side, it looks like a storybook come to life. The quaint scenery shots, the sterile-looking kingdom of Duloc, Princess Fiona's tower, and Shrek's swamp all have personality to them. I'm not a character designer, but everything about the character designs are really nice. I will say they translated well into animation. Speaking of animation, it's actually interesting to find out that the original plan for Shrek was a live-action CG animation hybrid. Yeah, a year and a half was spent testing that idea, and I'm glad they didn't stick with it. Ugh, this is nightmare fuel for children. Putting my sleepless nights aside, I do enjoy the hard work the animation team put into the final product. Just look at what came before them. Toy Story was the first movie done in CGI. Then we got this Brazilian movie I never heard of. Next, Ants, followed by A Bug's Life, and finally before we got to Shrek, Toy Story 2. 20 years ago, the technology of full CG movies was in its infancy, so trashing the work is low-hanging fruit. Also, my rule of thumb is I won't crap on CG before the 2010s because the technology was still developing. That's what I can confidently state. It's good animation, and it holds up well for how old Shrek is. For our last topic, when I mentioned there were casting problems, I didn't mean Myers re-recording his lines with a Scottish accent. We all know Mike Myers as Shrek, but the original voice behind him was Chris Farley. Farley was mostly known for being cast as the Fat Oaf in most of the films he had a role in. Unfortunately, he passed away December 18th, 1977, dealing with weight and drug problems. His brother John turned down DreamWorks' request to sound alike the remaining lines, leading the role to be passed on to Myers, along with a complete rewrite of the script. Fortunately, almost a decade and a half later, the leakage of old footage from Shrek's production brought a new perspective to light. Two distinct versions of Shrek's character. Mike Myers' version of Shrek is a grown adult that's gotten used to everyone around him running in fear with looks of disgust. He knows it's no use trying to make those around him realize he's deeper than just being the big, ugly ogre, and all he wants out of this is to be left alone. However, Chris Farley's version of Shrek is a young adult who's making his way into the world. He's hurt that people run away from and ostracize him, disheartened that almost everyone fears his existence, an ogre who just wants to be loved. Both versions are about accepting yourself for who you are. The differences, in my opinion, are that Myers' version was learning to break down the metaphorical walls he's put around himself, while Farley's was accepting that getting people to see you past their preconceived notions takes time. After looking at both of them, I will admit that seeing what Shrek could have become is very interesting, but I don't wish for someone to dig up the prior version of Shrek and try to revitalize it. Granted, it was around 85 to 95% done, but it wouldn't feel right to have a sound-alike finish the story. Chris Farley's version of Shrek is a cathartic reminder that whether it's man, ogre, or some other beast, we all have our struggles.
Boy, has he underestimated you.
Yeah, he can join the club. People see me and they go, "Ah! Help! A big, stupid, stinky, smelly, ugly ogre! I'm so scared!" And they judge me before they even know me. My folks always told me that everyone loves ogres.
I see.
So, I guess they were a little overprotective.
A little?
That's why I gotta do this. I want them to know I can take care of myself.
You want to make him proud.
Yeah.
You know what? When we met, I didn't think he was just a big, stupid, ugly ogre.
I know.
Night, Shrek.
Night, Donkey.
As we begin to wind down, I'd like to say I'm not going to treat my opinion like it's untouched ground. This observation is obvious from the very moment Shrek finishes the storybook opening, as he literally rips out the page he read from and uses it as two-ply as a way of having a hearty laugh at the Disney princess formula. And Shrek's not meant to be some grand deconstruction of the fantasy literature genre. I'll leave that discussion to the channels that have no media literacy or overanalyze entertainment. To reiterate my statement at the beginning of the video, it's a funny ogre movie. I will agree that Shrek has a lot of elements that make it a wonderful and insightful experience. Though there's also the fact that sometimes we just need a simple laugh from a relatable protagonist. I enjoy the movie because we follow a green dude, his average-sized donkey, a quest involving legal documents, and onions. If you enjoy Shrek for other reasons, I won't stop you. I will talk about the sequels later this year, so please be patient. I'm Mr. J, wanting you to have a day.